Adventure Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin lore podcast. Last time, we discussed the Chi of Yore quest, taking travelers back to the good old days of Liyue lore that no one understood. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about Mizuki, the Eater of Dreams.
Are you feeling your feelings? Looking for that special friend to gobble up your innermost thoughts? Maybe looking to sit by a river and cry? Well, try our website, talesofteyvat.com, where Tiff has collected some oh-so-sad visuals for each episode we do, including this one, where you're sure to end up sitting on a tree branch all night.
And seeing some wet socks.
No.
There's wet socks. While you're at our site, check out our past seasons and special episodes. For every episode, we also include an artist spotlight from the community of some really awesome art about the topic. Be sure to check it out.
And finally, feel free to email Albedo, my beloved, at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com to let him know what you think of Tales of Teyvat, what you think of this episode's topic, and what you'd like to see in the future. Just remember, no anthrax. Keep it clean. That's it. Poor Albedo. That being said, Albedo has nothing to do with Mizuki. Even though she's been in Mondstadt, I don't know if she knows my man.
Can I just ask you to say her name again?
Mizuki?
The full thing.
No.
Aw.
The Yume
Come on.
Mizuki.
That was perfect.
Yume Mizuki. Now, for a very long time, I was fucking up her name and calling her Miku. I think Miku had just come out in Fortnite.
Yes, I think you're right.
And I was like, Miku's in the game. And everyone was like, no.
Because I think I kept calling Miku Mizuki. I was doing the opposite.
We were all dazed and confused. So
Now, do you think that, which one do you think is grosser? Albedo eating spiders or Mizuki eating dreams?
I don't know.
honestly, the dreams.
You really think so? You'd really rather eat a spider than a dream?
What I don't know doesn't kill me. He's frying them up. I don't know it's a spider. It's like calamari. When they give you calamari and it's in an O shape, I don't know that's a squid. But the second they come out and it has the little dangly things, I'm like, nah, I can't have that one. But I'll take the ring right next to it. It's a true statement.
Do you completely disassociate that they're part of the same being?
Yeah, because it doesn't look like it's part of this. It's like a chicken nugget. A chicken nugget typically looks like a cowboy boot. Or Sicily.
It's a chicken's cowboy boot.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a chicken butt, or anything. Chicken feet kind of freak me out because I'm like, that's literally a foot.
Yeah, and they're very reptilian looking.
So yeah, as long as Albedo wasn't giving me these spiders looking like spiders, I'm cool. They probably look like pretzel sticks. He's just beating me
They
the
just have
legs.
to be prepared in a specific way for you.
Yeah, and it's honestly, let's be real. Albedo could do no wrong by me.
Oh my God.
He would never give me a food he knew that would freak me out. Like peanut butter.
Ah, if only he knew.
He probably doesn't like peanut butter either. He knows what's up.
Peanut butter covered egg.
Oh,
He knows what's up. Meanwhile, she's eating eggs with crunched up spider legs sprinkled on top.
She wouldn't eat the egg though.
Yeah, joke's on you. I don't like eggs. Ha ha ha. I did try a quail egg though, last year. And then I thought I was allergic to it. But I wasn't, I don't think.
I feel bad that the Baku, which we'll get into, they're eating these dreams, and doesn't it say they taste like stale bread or soggy bread or something?
Stale white bread, I think is what she says.
Accurate, honestly. Especially once you taste a sourdough, all white bread just tastes like a bad dream.
But when she eats them, it's nasty because she understands them. These little guys, they're like, yum, yum, yum.
It's not like almond tofu that Zhao is eating.
Right. Well, okay, before we get too far into this, so Mizuki, and if you didn't get it by now, travelers, she eats dreams. And it's not because she's an adeptus who likes almond tofu. It is because she is a yokai. and she's a Baku yokai. So a quick refresher for our travelers who might not remember. I feel like I should be like inserting Beefy telling us what yokai are into this. But a yokai is like a magical creature that lives in Inazuma. They can live other places, but they're from Inazuma. There are a lot of different yokai. They are similar to, what are they? Enlightened beasts of Liyue, illuminated beasts.
They're the Adeptus of Inazuma.
And there's a lot of different yokai. So we've seen other characters who are yokai. So we have Yaimiko, who is a kitsune. And in history, we've also had Kitsune Saigu. You have Ito, who is an Oni. Kirara, who is a Nekomata. Kujosara, who is a Tengu. And there's actually a ton of NPCs that are also different types of yokai. If you don't remember, we have the little bitty babies from the ghost, our like scary ghost event that we did. So the yokai are everywhere in Inazuma, and some of them have probably the most heartbreaking stories. But Mizuki, she's not aside from that. She has a terrible, heartbreaking story, but she is a Baku.
She is a Yumekui Baku.
Yes, and they just shorten that to Baku usually. Now, when Baku, as for travelers who don't remember, a lot of yokai, they don't start off with a human form. They are able to eventually garnish the power to become a human at times. And we know that Yaimiko started off as a fox. We know that Kirara used to be mostly cat. And Mizuki is no different. When a Baku is not in human form, they are like these cute little like pudgy pink guys that are super duper cute. And we actually have two spiritual Bakus who kind of play Mizuki's companions.
So one thing I thought was kind of cool about Baku is, I mean, if Wikipedia is correct, they originate from a Chinese word called mo, and a mo was the Chinese name for a giant panda from the 3rd century BCE to the 19th century CE. And in 1824, a French person named Jean-Pierre Abel Remusat misidentified the mo as a black and white Malayan tapir. So I think some of the traditional images of a mo, which turned into a Baku in folklore, was this tapir, which is like a really cute, they're kind of like anteater looking, like almost like a mix between a giant panda and an anteater.
Yeah, or like an elephant and an anteater.
Yeah.
Because they have like a prehensile trunk.
Yeah, I definitely saw Anteater.
And according to legend, they were created by the spare pieces that were left over when the gods finished creating all the other animals.
That's kind of sad.
So it's like
that kind of
animal
sounds like
salad.
a platypus.
Not
It
animal
does.
salad.
It does sound like a platypus.
Platypus is like, I was drunk one day and I just had to pick some stuff up and make something.
Yeah, like I dropped some animal pieces into the mixing bowl.
I mean, platypus is cute as hell, but it's not sure what it wants to be. Now the poor tapir is with it. It's in good company. It's in good company.
I feel like I might be a platypus then, based on what you guys are saying.
Not a tapir.
No, I'd rather be a spy.
Platypuses are more unique, I feel like. They look more different. So I love that for you.
Thank you. I like it too. Now, in Genshin, the Baku look totally different, which is unfortunate because I think that would be cool to see like this anteatery platypus salad. I don't know what craziness. They look very different, which is kind of sad, but it actually ties into Mizuki's constellation, which is fun, which looks like an anteater, even though it does not stand for anteater. It does stand for the dreamer tapir, though, like Brandon was saying. So super fun, but that is not what they do here in Inazuma.
They could, I mean, you can kind of say that they look like pudgy versions of tapirs. Like they have little shortened noses, but they still have like some of that little characteristics to it. They're freaking adorable, though. Like you just want to squeeze them while they eat your dreams.
Yeah, you're talking about like her little assistant ones, right?
Or like when they're just all, even in her story when they're all flying around, it's adorable.
Yeah. They just descend upon the land.
Yeah, it talk about feeling like you're high. It was trippy.
Yeah.
Or like it reminded me of that scene in Dumbo when Dumbo gets high and he sees all those like crazy colored like elephants dancing around and stuff like that. Do you remember that?
I totally forgot that Dumbo gets high.
I did too, but I haven't seen it since I was like a little kid.
Hopefully I wasn't high. I'm pretty sure that this happened.
Well, how old were you? Could you have been high? That's the real question here. But appearances aside, the Baku in Teyvat are known as dream eaters, which is very interesting for anyone who played Animal Crossing, because in Animal Crossing you have this character named Luna that actually looks like a tapir or an anteater, who also like brings you into this kind of creepy, like seduction-y dreamscape room, and then you get to go live in dreams and see other people's worlds. So curious how we're taking that across different games.
Mm.
But nonetheless, they are able to enter your dreams and they can influence the dreams of humans and other yokai. So they can go into your dream and they can influence it. They can't create a dream. Mizuki makes that very clear that she cannot create and insert dreams. But if you are having a dream, she can go in there and make changes or try to influence you to make the dream go a certain way.
Tiff, are you thinking of the song Dreamweaver? Dreamweaver.
Join Tots for karaoke every Tuesday at Twinte. So they actually, the Baku, have to consume dreams in order to survive. And it kind of says that this is like a thing that's general to them, is that they need to have a sustenance. And I was like, don't we all need sustenance? Like, why is this like a characteristic unique to them?
They need the dreams for the food. Like they can't just survive on like, cotton candy and popcorn.
It's like they need sustenance goop, where we just need any type of sustenance.
Yeah.
It seems like.
It feels very specific the way they describe it in her lore in this game, where it's like they describe like the taste of certain dreams, the textures, and like how they get basically nutritional value out of it.
Yeah. What dreams do you think are the highest in calories?
Well, seeing as like the direction that she's going in, I would say it's like dreams that involve a theme park.
So all Disneyland nightmares give you the most calories. I mean, that makes sense, honestly. So while they do have to consume the dreams to survive, they have to consume these dreams within their own dream, which is like Inception.
Yeah,
I don't even want to try to understand it.
it's like I go into my dream to eat your dream.
Yeah.
It's like, do they store it up and bring it in like a lunch pail?
But then they can also eat the dream in other people's dreams.
Yeah, they just have to be in a dream state.
And then we'll get to this part a little bit later, but there's also like a collective unconscious that's like Inazuma wide, which I'm like, what?
It was the food court.
Genshin loves the collective conscious and the hive minds. So
Yeah, yes. Hoyo loves it actually because it's in other games.
oh, is it in like Honkai Impact?
Yeah, and Sword and Star Rail, yeah.
Tiff, was it in Zenless?
Not to the point that I got to, but I did not get very far, unfortunately. I do want to play that again because why? Cute little guy. There's a cute little guy in there. They're adorable. What are they? The Bango?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
They're adorable. Which is why Genshin really should let me play the adorable little game, but they won't give me the early access thing.
Not yet.
No, I still haven't gotten it, and I've gotten teased on it I don't know how many times, and I'm like, just let me play with the little pets.
But little pets aside, we're going back to the little pets of Baku. So they eat dreams, but they also, when they eat your dream, the person who dreamt the dream won't remember it. It's gone from their memory. So whether it was a good dream or a bad dream, they will not remember that dream ever occurred.
Which is why they try not to ever eat a good dream, because then they're taking away something good from a person.
Yeah, it's bad manners.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unspoken rule that they don't eat good dreams without permission.
Mhm.
And then still they don't always do it. Now, negative dreams, as Brandon and Tiff kind of foreshadowed to earlier, they can act like a toxin in a Baku's body and can cause a lot of really terrible side effects that nobody ever wants to deal with, including falling into a coma that lasts for months. So nobody wants to go into a coma for months.
Which didn't that happen to her Baku elder?
Yes, it did. So the other thing about the side effects is the side effects can be changed in how they impact your constitution as a Baku based on the Baku's understanding of the human emotion and the human psyche. And since Mizuki, outside of being a yokai, which feels like a full-time job for her, she's actually a clinical psychiatrist. Round of applause for the second known therapist in all of Tavat.
Yay.
Finally.
Yes, they are no longer just on a boat.
Mm.
They apparently are everywhere because there's a few of them in Inazuma, we later find out, that are Baku clinical psychiatrists. So that's great. But because she understands the human psyche so well, these side effects tend to hit her a lot harder or taste a lot bitterer, although she's never fallen into a 6-month-long coma. Back in Ye Olde Day, the Baku actually used to go to the yokai gathering. We've heard Yae Miko speak about that, how they used to go and party hardy, but they weren't really memorable. They were just like a very quiet group, which is interesting.
Yeah, they kept to themselves and, they farmed. They had their own little, lives kind of going on.
Yeah, because the Baku have been around for thousands of years, we would presume. We know Mizuki minimally has been around since pre-Cataclysm. She did live through the Cataclysm, and she was friends with Yae Miko before the Cataclysm occurred, when they were both just learning how to become humans, the little shapeshifters.
Yeah, hanging out at their little banquets.
So, like Tiff mentioned, they were just like kind of hanging out and farming and trying to make a living. And when the Cataclysm hit, all of the Baku, including Mizuki, went into hiding because they have apparently no battle skills, which is really funny.
Yeah.
I've never met a group that can't fight in this game.
They're like, oh, snap. Like, hide underground. Which I don't know why. I assume they went underground. They did. I don't think there's anything that says that they did, but in my mind, they all went into the storm cellar and closed the hatch. They're like, oh,
yeah, they retreated into the shadows.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we know that Mizuki can fight.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe she just learned afterwards.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe it's her constitution because she's more in touch with human emotions, where the Baku are just bloop, bloop, bloop.
Right.
I didn't know if it was a favoritism thing of you have certain yokai characters that were the popular ones and they were kind of more wallflowery. You know what I mean? So maybe the respect level for them wasn't high enough for them to feel like they could be frontline fighters. I don't know.
I mean, they felt really bad about not being able to help, though. So much so that in the aftermath of the Cataclysm, they were just, kind of cleaning out all the dreams of the PTSD from people who fought in the Cataclysm and anybody who had to deal with the Abyss. They're like, we'll vacuum this shit up for you.
Right.
I almost wonder too with Mizuki. I think she later on, very many years after the Cataclysm, does a lot of traveling. And I think those travels could have been the reason that she learned how to fight.
Right.
But, like Tiff just said, after the Cataclysm, Mizuki kind of emerged with her people and she saw that their home was destroyed, that everything was crazy, and she kind of went on this hunt to find her friends while the other Baku started picking up the pieces. And she has this very distinct memory of finding Yae Miko at the sacred Sakura tree instead of Kitsune Saigu, and Yae looked like she had been crying, and from that moment on, their relationship just totally changed. They went from seeing each other basically every day to trying to see each other once a month to it never seeing each other. And from all of this terribleness, they started to help out with the dream eating, as Tiff said, but a lot of the Baku couldn't handle it outside of Mizuki, of course, who was our strong-willed little baby for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If they were taking everybody's dreams and people are having nightmares about the Abyss, and now these little guys who weren't even strong enough to go and fight too, that'd be really rough for them because they had to experience it all themselves too. And they don't know how to process it outside of eating it and getting chubby on it.
And getting sick from it.
Yeah, and getting sick. There has been death from it too, right? I think there's been a Baku that's died.
Oh, really? I know there's the one that went into a coma and then woke up and had to retire. But it wouldn't surprise me if someone died. Also, I love the idea that there could have been one that just used the ailments that they get from eating nightmares as an excuse to not fight. Like, I would help y'all, but I'm sorry, it's gonna give me ailments. I gotta stay in tip-top shape if I'm gonna eat them nightmares.
I don't need those ailments.
Don't give me ailments. I'm not getting ailments.
Like going around like the flu.
And like Yaimiko's like in tears and Mizuki's like self-care.
So, Mizuki and all of her friends, some of them are not, they're avoiding illness, so they're not eating dreams. And some of them are falling into comas, and others are eating dreams willy-nilly. And before Mizuki knows it, 100 years have gone by. And she's like, what the fuck? What have I been doing? And from there, she kind of changes her path and she decides to do some traveling and she goes to different places.
Well, she actually travels for a full century,
Yes, afterwards, right? Yeah. And she goes to 5 of the 7 nations.
which is also just like the best con of like, first I can't get ailments, now I'm going on an extended vacation to learn. Like, I really just need to spend some time traveling and figure this out for the good of my people.
Yeah.
So she goes to Mondstadt, where she works with the Adventurers Guild as a post-trauma disorder treatment consultant. Pretty accurate for what she was already doing in Inazuma.
Mhm.
Now, does that mean that Babs was her boss?
Well, how long ago was this? Like, this was probably like at least like 80 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe Barbara's grandpa.
Right. Frederica Sr.
I wonder if she could have known Vanessa.
Maybe.
Oh, she was pre-cataclysm.
Yeah, we don't, but I mean, it's possible that Mizuki was around back then. We know that Ganyu and Yaimiko knew each other when they were young, and we know Ganyu's at least 3,000,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. Like, she looks so good. Drop the skincare routine.
Yeah.
So Mizuki then went to Liyue, where she worked with the physicians in Chenyu Vale and learned a lot about herbal medicine. She went to Sumeru, where she was inspired by their use of incense, and she was able to create aromatherapy.
Yeah.
She's like Da Vinci.
Yeah.
And then she also went to Fontaine, and in Fontaine, she kind of took all of her knowledge and she went to the Research Institute, hashtag Hey Elaine.
The Fontaine one is so funny. Like, it says she studied theoretical medical insights from the Fontaine Research Institute. Like, what does that even mean? And then she also studied the visual patterns in human psychology via avant-garde cinematography within the film industry. It's like, okay, sure.
You know what this does, though, Brandon?
What?
I think it proves your Dodo Xavier theory.
Oh, well, I like that.
Because I feel like, avant-garde cinematography like 100 years ago must have been Dodore.
Probably, yeah.
And then it later on becomes Xavier, who loves his film. It makes sense. It's the first time I've agreed with the theory.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Now, I will say it's interesting because Mizuki is like, I've been to 5 out of the 7 nations, but I'm like, you've been to 6. Like, she doesn't consider Inazuma in that list.
Yeah.
I guess it's just like, that's my homeland. But 5 out of 7. I'm like, 6 out of 7. Learn to count. Like, you're literally a doctor. Like,
Yeah.
He has a whole ass PhD but can't count. Just saying.
I mean, she's a scammer. Mizuki's a scammer.
What? Do you think she's a scammer?
No, not really.
Oh, I was
But
like,
I think
oh,
it would be
shit.
really funny. She's like, I can't because the ailments. I just can't. And then she's on vacation for 100 years.
Listen, all my ailments would go away if I went on vacation for 100 years. So
Yeah.
Watching experimental films.
She was getting high in Fontaine.
Oh yeah. Well, and Sumeru definitely.
Yeah. With
Because
the incense.
that aromatic therapy helps with relaxation and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Hypatia knows that one.
The one that she's most influenced by is Natlan, and she went like all over Natlan apparently.
Yeah, she like adored Natlan, and Natlan was her inspiration for the bathhouse.
Yeah, literally bumped into Mualani, and Mualani accidentally dragged her into a hot spring.
So, outside of being a clinical psychologist, she is also the like primary shareholder and core founding investor for the ISA bathhouse. I almost sound like I said like the ISIS bathhouse.
Not the ISIS ones.
For the ISA bathhouse, which we see a lot about in the Mikawa Flower Festival, or I guess it's our second Mikawa Flower Festival event. But she basically is totally inspired by the hot springs of Natlan and in the springs over by Mualani for that.
And what's really interesting about her whole, travel abroad, aka vacation, is she's really like she goes there because after the cataclysm, everyone's traumatized in Inazuma, and she can't really eat her nightmares around her without getting her ailments. So she's like, I really need to like approach this more holistically and figure out ways to kind of settle the nightmares down before me and my people eat them. So she's kind of like going out in search of like different ways to take care of people before eating their dreams. And when she gets to Natlan, like it actually goes through the different people. Like it says, from the people of the spring, she got the idea of the hot springs and water sports. From the Scions of the Canopy, she got the idea of safe extreme sports like rock climbing and mountaineering. And she planned to set up fitness centers staffed by professional trainers from the Collective of Plenty. And what is really, really funny to me is that it kind of just seems like like her whole 100-year trip was figuring out how to incorporate the idea of fun into the culture of Inazuma. She's like, these people just need to have fun and then they're going to feel better,
Yeah. And like Mizuki at this point is also like locked out of Inazuma because of the Sakoku decree.
Yeah.
And so she's probably like, they're really not having fun right now. Like shit was bad when I was there. Now no one's in or out. They're fucked.
She's like sending selfies to Yaimiko of her in a bikini. Wish you were here.
Get your girlfriend to unlock the doors.
People's dreams here taste delicious.
Mizuki's like, this is what you could have had.
Yeah.
Because there does feel like a weird, like, thruple situation going on there sometimes.
Yeah.
Not thruple, but like, Yaimiko could have had either woman.
Yeah.
Feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, she like loves Natlan and she loves Mualani. And as soon as she started talking with Mualani, Mualani like marched her into Moika's office, which like stunned Mizuki. It's like, oh, the Pyro Archon.
And she's having fun.
And she's what? Meanwhile, she admits that she was very nervous after the official Mikawa Flower Festival to even talk to A. She was like, I like asked her if she wanted to come to the bathhouse, and like her hair fell in the water, and I was gonna go pick it up, but then I was like too scared.
Yeah.
She was like, but Yaimiko would have done it. She's such a better yokai than me. And I was like, it's also her girlfriend. So there's like a self-doubt in Mizuki about being a yokai.
I mean, I think just in general about her, because like she has, and we'll get a little bit further into it later, her relationship with Yaimiko kind of has a competitiveness to it. And as much as she kind of feels or says she is a little like diminutive to Yaimiko, I guess, like she's also like actually like a badass. So she kind of like, I don't think she really gets just how powerful she is or how smart she is.
Oh, yeah.
But she's always kind of coming off like, oh, I'm not good enough, but I'm going to kick her ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Yaimiko had like the confidence and like natural charisma back, hundreds of years ago when they were hanging out at these yokai banquets and would like always impress everyone and was kind of like the popular one, and she always kind of lived in her shadow, even though they were really close friends. So it is interesting after she's been on her 100-year vacation to see how her confidence has grown and how she's kind of like, starting like a new lease on life and like, I'm going to like start my own successful business and I'm going to be the popular one now.
Does their relationship remind you at all of Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried's relationship in Jennifer's Body?
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I mean, yeah, I feel like that is like a common trope in a way, especially of that era.
Like friends that have a weird sexual tension that you don't necessarily understand.
Yes, but there's also like a weird power dynamic.
Yeah, and Yaimiko is Megan Fox in this situation. Like 100%. And Amanda Seyfried comes up on top at times in Jennifer's body. So I have faith in Mizuki. But it's, I mentioned the one thing about with A, where she's like, oh, like, I guess I still have a long way to go as a yokai if Yae Miko would have touched her hair. But also in Moeka, she talks about how Moeka let her go into one of her dreams once. And she says that her dream was like nothing she'd ever seen before. And it was like stepping into a volcano. And she said all she could do was cough. And she said, perhaps my yokai powers simply aren't strong enough yet. So she's definitely like self-doubting herself. And I know she's also therapizing herself. So I hope that she's like talking to herself in therapy about this.
Which is just the wildest thing. I do therapy on myself. I don't need anyone else to help me.
I don't need a real clinical psychiatrist myself. I'm good. I got aromatherapy.
Yeah.
When she goes back to Inazuma, she has this moment where she meets with Yae Miko and she's like, I learned all about this crazy foreign concept called fun. And we need to figure out how to roll this out to the people of Inazuma. And Yae Miko's like, well, we do that already with light novels.
And Mizuki is like, what the fuck is a light novel?
Yeah, she's like, I don't think so. I think we need theme parks.
Mm-hmm.
And Yae Miko's like, I don't think so. And that kind of, I feel like that was sort of the beginning of like this rivalry that starts cropping up between them, where Mizuki's trying to get Yae Miko to utilize the Yae Publishing House to help sort of roll this out. But then rumors get started eventually that the two of them are business rivals. And then Mizuki kind of leans into that, kind of enjoying that idea of overtaking her popular friend that, was such a leader while she hid in the shadows many years ago.
Right.
She's like, now it's my time to shine.
It's kind of sad, It's like high school friends who went on to college and like switch dynamics almost.
Yeah.
Or like when you come back from like you go away to college, but like your cool friends stayed in your hometown.
Yeah.
And now they're like queen of your hometown and you're coming home. And even though like you're the CEO of like a Fortune 500 company at the age of 22, you
oh my
still
God,
feel
it's a
less
Hallmark movie.
I was going to say, did we just turn on the Hallmark channel?
I know, it's literally a Hallmark movie. Just add in a fucking Christmas tree and it's golden. I could make $1 million right now.
And a guy who seems like he's poor and he has a bad job, but he's really like a multimillionaire of some like family-owned company.
Are you talking about Ito?
Yes.
Arataki Ito?
Imagine.
Home for the Holidays, starring Mizuki, Ito, Yae Miko, A. Be a great movie. I'm gonna pitch it next year to Hallmark for Christmas. But, one thing too, just to mention, we've been talking a little bit about the bathhouse and Mizuki getting inspired by Natlan, but then also being stuck in Natlan. She actually starts building the bathhouse while she is locked out of Inazuma. So the bathhouse is being built during the Sakoku decree. So she's never able to go and check in on the construction of the bathhouse. And it went surprisingly well. But when she eventually is able to come back, it's done. Which was also a great tie-in lore-wise in the game as to why we hadn't seen the bathhouse prior to.
Yeah.
Like the building was there, but we never went in.
There's a comment too in the beginning of our story quest where Paimon is just like, oh yeah, but I mean, I guess we walk past this place all the time. We just never noticed it was here. It was like, who knew?
Yeah, who fucking knew Paimon is right? Not me.
Now, was it built by the owner, Aikawa Susumu, or was it built by just like random contractors, you think?
Probably random contractors that guy contracted.
Okay.
Like, I would think that he picked contractors and, like, let them build it. I don't know. Are there unions in Inazuma? Is there OSHA?
I don't know. Let's go ask the Millilith.
No.
I think there are sort of some kind of union. Like, wasn't there something about a workers group that was concerned with flammable materials? Do you remember that?
No. It sounds like something Kaching would have been involved in.
It was some kind of thing where Yae Miko was involved, of course, and someone else, I think, I want to say from Watatsumi, maybe.
Oh, maybe. Well, that's another place, too, that Mizuki is, like, really interested in, is Watatsumi. She wants to, like, expand out that way, and Kokomi is, like, I think she has really, really big dreams. For sure.
Yeah, because Kokomi was like, I don't know if enough people are going to come to Watatsumi for tourism to go to your theme park. But Mualani also mentioned that she's going to be opening a new branch of her business in Natland.
Yes, we've seen where it is.
Yeah, there's a little Baku just standing there, and I was like, "Excuse me, what are you doing over here?"
Yeah, the one day Tiff and I were like playing in Discord together, and one of us was like, "What the fuck? Is there an event going on?" And then we were like, "No, oh, they're opening a branch? What?"
The best was like we were trying to figure all this stuff out, and like we were being like, Sherlock Holmes, like, look, there's the little stools here, and blah blah blah. There was a sign right out front. If we just read it, we would have known.
Reading is fundamental, kids. Not that I would ever know. But also, it's just to go back to Watasumi for a second. Don't you find it interesting that everyone is trying to bring tourism there? Like the whole Ito music jam event, the Arataki Rockin' for Life Tour Day Force of Awesomeness event with Marco Meatball took place in Watasumi, and like that was the other thing was like they're like, we're gonna bring it here and we're gonna bring tourism here.
It makes sense. They're not doing the best financially, I don't think, or economically, I should say.
Well, because they can't grow anything.
Right. And they need more like trading happening, and they need more funds coming in. So
They need the Lorac. He'll fix it all, let it grow.
Or they need, I'm just going to keep bringing it back to drugs. They need to figure out how you can snort the seawall, like the sea condensation stuff.
I just like imagining people with like cheese graters, like scrubbing the seashells.
Yeah. And all like the stalagmites and stalactites and stuff. This is what I would do in Teyvat.
I mean, they would make a lot of money. Yeah.
Note to self, drugs. Tiff just said she would do drugs in Teyvat.
Hey, it's working in Sumeru.
I'd be a drug lord. Teyvat.
Kazua's dealer. Got it.
I'm going to go into business with Dory so she can expand me out to not cry.
She's got to be selling drugs, right?
Oh,
like
she's got to. I imagine that there's like some back room of Dory's like inventory, like some back room where there's drugs and sex toys that she's just like,
and guns.
Are you
she has like bazookas and a tank.
God.
You have to say like the special word, and she's just like, I'll take you back here. It's like all locked up, and there's like blacklight posters on the wall.
You just go up to her and you go, never sucks. She's like, all right, come on in.
Yeah. She probably bankrolled every piece of the fake god body.
She started the OnlyFans of Teyvat with the god body.
The god body? No, I mean, I'm talking about Scaramouche. Like Scaramouche's big robot body.
His big robot god body,
his Neon Genesis moment, she totally paid for that whole thing. I bet you anything.
And she probably made an OnlyFans about it. Watch this.
She literally just used Kave's debt to build Scaramouche. Anyway, back. We're going back to Mizuki. So Mizuki does have a story quest, though, where we get to see a little bit more about how.
Speaking of drugs.
Yes. Cocaine? Meth.
Yeah.
It is the trippiest story quest. And I was recapping it in my notes, and I was like, this shit sounds crazy.
Even to the point that when you do first get over to the bathhouse and you meet the other human Baku that are there, the older one looks younger than the younger one. Like, there's this whole thing about, well, you can just decide when you're making your human form, like, what kind of resonates with you. And, like, they make a big thing. They actually point out that the one who looks like a kid is actually the oldest.
That is our elder.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one that's a little asshole.
Yes. She kind of is. They call her the lazy, like it first like says like lazy Baku, but she's a little sassy too. And then as it goes on, she's like, if I knew there were going to be this many people, I would have came into work today.
Yeah.
She's just so put out.
And you have like the owner who's not really the owner. Everything is just a little off.
Yeah. They're so dealing drugs here. Murasaki is the little jerk, and then Shion is the other Baku one.
The
who's
nice
just,
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the nervous one.
Yeah.
But like it actually starts off outside of the bathhouse where we just kind of like stumble upon Mizuki like hanging out like on a like on a rock by the water, and we're like, what's up with that chick? And then all of a sudden it's like wackadoodles. Like we know we're somewhere else, and there's all these like random people that came out of nowhere, and they're talking about weird things, and they go up to her, and she like takes their dreams, and we're like, what is going on? And she's like, how did you get into my dream? How dare you?
I know. And we're like, not again after Sumeru.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been our dream. You please take that PTSD away? Like,
Yeah.
sheesh.
Also, like, how dangerous. Like, what if we fell into the river and drowned?
Hmm.
Like, you're just out here affecting reality with your dream that people can walk into.
Yeah, they never really say like, did we walk into it because we're special, or can you just randomly walk into a dream?
Yeah.
But she thinks Mizuki is not sure though at first, and she thinks we're just there like to have our dreams cleansed. And she eats one of our good dreams.
And now we can't remember it.
Yeah. And she's like, damn, that was really delicious. Oh my God, that was a real one. She's like, I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I had no idea. So here's a VIP pass to my bathhouse so I can eat more of your dreams over here.
It was probably a dream about our sibling, and that's why we act so weird
Yeah.
around each other when we run into them and not
Yeah.
cry.
It was actually that like Amber's like we dreamt of Amber putting up the sign and actually our siblings showing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we end up over at the bathhouse, that we were randomly like, oh, look, it's right here. Look at this building that we've walked past 10,000 times. And like the owner, Susumu, yeah, he's just out there like, hey, you want to go to the bathhouse? I heard you talked about the bathhouse. That's my business. Why don't you come over here? Like he's so eager to get
Yeah.
anybody.
He's like, we're struggling financially just a little bit.
Yeah. Like, dude, you don't tell somebody that. Like, that's for one, that's how you're going to get somebody to get a discount. Be like, oh, you need my money? What you going to do for me?
And then Shion is like immediately feeding Paimon, and Paimon's loving every minute of it.
Yeah,
a glutton.
she totally does. Because she's all flustered and whatnot. And like, Mizuki's like, okay, well, I'll take the traveler as, my client. Why don't you take this one? And Paimon's like, well, why don't you want me? And she's like, well, this other one will give you food. And she's like, that's my deal.
Say no more. And then what's the other one's name? Murasaki?
Murasaki is the sassy one. And
Yeah, she's like, I'm not
Shion's
doing
the-
anything. I'm
Yeah.
not helping.
She's like, I'm so glad there's nobody here.
Yeah.
To do any work. Yeah, she's not, that's why she's not outside, because nobody would come in then.
Yeah.
We go into this nice serene room, and Mizuki's like, here, get comfortable. I'm going to put on some incense. And then she's like, close your eyes.
Didn't it feel like weirdly borderline sexual?
Yes. The whole thing there, a lot of times we say like there's some kind of chemistry between characters, but throughout this entire story quest, and I feel like Yai Miko, even at the very end, says it outright. Like this is a date. Like just generally, it's a way for us to go on a date. There's at one point, there's like a close up of our hands, like we're almost holding hands. And like, it's totally,
It's very suggestive.
yeah.
And it feels weird because so many of them are not like that.
Yeah. But you know what? Both of them that involved wet socks. They're both dates.
Stop bringing them up. I didn't even think about them.
But yeah, she tells us to close our eyes, and she's like, don't peek now. But of course we peek, and we just see her like rummaging around like, where is that? Where's that thing that I'm looking for? And it's one of those things when you go, is this just a way to move the story along, or is it like she's gonna like murder us, or what's happening?
I think it was just a way to be sexy.
Yeah.
Don't look. keep your eyes closed. But I love it that Yaimiko shows up and kind of like crashes our date and is like, I used to be friends with this hoe. And then she's like, by the way, someone named Amura Ichigensai is opening his own psychotherapy practice and he's promising way better results.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
And it's like, this is why you're not doing well, because this guy, he's got all the goods over there. And we're like, where is that guy? And she's just like, oh, he's on the road.
He's some mysterious man that avoids me. So what does Paimon and Traveler do? We decide to go stick our nose into his business and like do a little look-see. Now that we have a new girlfriend, we're like, well, I gotta go check out the competition.
Because we're never nosy.
I know.
It's like, oh, my sibling. Oh, wait, that's the dream you took away. I don't remember having to find them.
Yeah, we're like, we'll help you with all of your problems. No worries.
Yeah, we got nothing to do. Like the best part is like so we go over there and the first thing we encounter is this really like rude, like it's like the bouncer. He's just like, get in line. There's a big long line of people and you should just shut up and take a number. It's like, what the fuck? Like, why are you so mean? And like, there's like 20 people in line.
We're like, is this the DMV?
Yeah. Totally felt like the DMV. Well, we have some time to kill, so we like talk to some of the patients, specifically these two that we'll talk to a lot throughout this story quest is Umihiko and Susakita. I'm hoping they saying those right.
Yeah.
They say that like, they go to this guy because he gets to the bottom of the problem, where like just going to the Aza one, they're just like covering it up. And they're like really talking bad about Mizuki's bathhouse.
Meanwhile, Mizuki's like, I go into your brain.
Yeah, and they're like, he treats the problem. And he's just like, not like a fraud like these other people.
Oh, so this is Brandon calling her a scam. Like, got it.
Yeah, this is my business.
Yeah.
This is my clinic.
Yeah, but like the best is they're like at the Aza one, you have to keep coming back because they don't fix the problem. Meanwhile, they go on to talk about how like at Emira's, they're gonna they're done, but they're still gonna come back tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
makes perfect sense.
They're dumb. I refer to them later in my notes too as Dumb and Dumber.
And we get so bored while waiting in line that we fall asleep.
Which
I guess
doesn't
we
say
were-
much about our company.
I guess we were that relaxed from our VIP spa treatment.
Mm-hmm.
We're just like, and then we have a nightmare about a big eyeball that attacks us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Renova?
Literally.
And then we wake up and we find out that in a classic DMV move, the clinic has closed before we got in.
Wow.
It's so terrible. And nobody knows where the guy goes. They're just like, oh, he's home.
Yeah.
We'll just come back tomorrow. And we're like, but we were in line.
Yeah. We end up later describing the situation to Mizuki, and she's like, that sounds like someone like this asshole named Emira Chuya, not Emira Ichigensai, who is a former patient of hers who has a terrible temper. And we're like, the plot thickens. And then I think it's the next day, Susukita and Umihiko, Dumb and Dumber, they show up for treatment at Isa Bathhouse. And we're like, oh, I thought everything was so great at the other one. But now you're over here getting treatment. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then later that night, Mizuki disappears and we find her down by the river crying because of the negative effects of eating nightmares. She's like, oh, it hurts. She's like cramping up, and I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, but that time she tells us too that not all the Baku get this. It's just because she is a psychologist and she understands human emotions. So like she can really feel it. So she walks around in her socks in the water. I'm telling you, there's wet socks. Wet socks all over the place.
What? I'm not listening.
She's just being dramatic. This is exactly what she did in front of Yaimiko before she went on her 100-year vacation.
Yeah.
Be like,
so
oh, the
sad.
pain. Oh, ailment.
Ailments.
The next day, though, we go back over to the bathhouse and talk about some ailments. Murasaki and Shion are doubled over in pain. They have such bad digestion. They don't know what's going on. They're so sick. And we're kind of like, wait a second. Those two guys were here. That seems weird. They were totally fine. Then the two Dumb and Dumber came over and now they're sick because they treated them and they ate their dreams. They're like, this has to have something to do with them. Let's go back.
Imagine your nightmares being so intense that they gave someone diarrhea.
I really would rather not. I feel like my nightmares might be giving me diarrhea.
I was
don't
gonna
wanna think
say,
I'm
like, I
creating
hope it
someone
doesn't happen
else.
to anyone but me. 'Cause
We head back over though to Emero's place and we see Dumb and Dumber outside and they're just like happy go lucky and they're like the one who's like normally catches thieves. He's like, I just let the guy go. Whatever. The other one who's a fisherman who's like afraid of the water and stuff. And he's just like, nah, I just didn't even go. It's no big deal. Like they're just ignoring all responsibility.
Mhm.
How do I get that gig?
Yeah. And like Paimon yells at them. Like, what did you do? Why are these two sick? And they just laugh at her. They're like, what do you mean? We weren't even there. And we're like, yeah, you were. Like, you came over. You don't remember going to the Iza bathhouse? They're just like, we don't have nightmares. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and we're like, your dreams got munched.
Yeah.
Don't say that ever again. Please. What did I just hear? Your dreams got munched.
Your dreams
Ugh.
got munched.
Mizuki munched.
I prefer to think of that as just becoming an adult. Your dreams got munched.
Oh my god.
Well, Mizuki is with us at this point too, and she's like, I'm gonna do something unorthodox. And we're like, okay. And she's like, boom, we're gonna go and like look into their subconscious. And we see next to these dudes, like basically another version of themselves, like wrapped up in like black smoke and like all disgruntled and in pain. And it's like, what the hell is this? And they're like, she's like, see? This is them. It's their subconscious. All they did was hide the problem. They're only happy because they hid the problem.
It's so confusing. So their dreams are getting munched. It's bad enough to give everyone indigestion, but then also the nightmares were isolated in their subconscious
Yeah.
where they will fester. So, I mean, that must be a lot of nightmares.
Yeah. So like when they went over to A's bathhouse, they got all the good stuff, the bad stuff, all the stuff that was festering.
Right. And that's why they're sick.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
They don't know because that's just like kind of hanging about. So yeah, because like she even says like it just doesn't have anywhere to go. Like
Right.
it's just kind of like when you ignore things, all it does is fester in your mind and turn into something worse. I swear sometimes it's like a fable. They're just trying to teach us something.
They're
Yeah.
like, you get a RuPaul's RuPaul in your tummy.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's what's happening here.
So Mizuki treats Shion and Murasaki while Traveler and Paimon are on a mission to track down the shady Amura person. And so what is our first course of action? We go straight to Yaimiko, and she's like, here's his address. Just gives us his home address.
Yeah, and like she's like, oh well, I know him because he was gonna be in some like light novel competition, but then he didn't, and we were supposed to deliver something, and everybody was like, oh, that's not a real address, and we didn't go. So he wrote a sternly written letter and complaint. Which is what he is also like. We find that that's what he also did at the Ease bathhouse. Like he gets really mad and writes letters about how he's upset about them.
He's angry.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little angry. So Mizuki, Traveler, and Paimon go over to his address. And when we get there, we realize that we've entered his dream and are being attacked by a nightmare monster. And this monster's like, I am the last of my kind. I am a nightmare monster, and my name is Kuroyume. And this is where things start going off the rails a little bit, but like in a fun way. Like I feel like it's a fun story quest, right? At this point forward.
At this point, yeah, because you go like you're almost like in a fun house. Like there's just random shit happening, and it reminded me of the ending of Labyrinth, the movie Labyrinth, when like the Goblin King's like walking on the side of the building, like side of the stairs, like all upside down. Like he's literally walking on the ceiling at one point, and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it gets a little trippy. And then it also has like changes in venue. Like we chase the nightmare monster into Chuya's subconscious mind, and we start seeing flashes of his past, such as like he definitely has like a daddy didn't love me enough moment.
Love that.
And because he wanted to be a writer, and his dad was like, you can't be a writer. He was definitely being bullied by classmates.
Mm-hmm.
But then Mizuki gets him to kind of open up to his mother in the final memory fragment, which allows her to finally eat his nightmare. And that brings Kuroyume, the nightmare monster, back out from who knows where. But then Kuroyume brings us into the quote unquote borderland, which I mentioned before. That's the hidden space within Inazuma's collective unconscious, where he hides out to survive as like, the only surviving member of his species. And like we mentioned, this is very Star Rail, very Honkai Impact Third, where it's like a weird collective unconscious space that just kind of hovers on the border of Inazuma, like in psychic destination. I don't know. And then Mizuki and Traveler at this point, just because it's as if it's not trippy enough, we start gathering sweet dreams to use to combat Kuroyume. We're like, I'm going to pick up the sweet dream over here. You pick up the one over there. And then that doesn't work because Kuroyume is too powerful. Then, and to correct me if I'm leaving anything out, but I think then we start hearing the sound of water.
Yeah.
And we realize that Kuroyume is drowning Chuya IRL, which is crazy because like, aren't you in his subconscious?
Yeah, how are
like,
you doing that?
Wouldn't that just kill you?
I guess he's also just in the collective unconscious. Like, who's to say?
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say where exactly Kuroyume is? But yeah, in order to save Chuya in real life, we have to wake up. But the only way we're going to be able to wake up is if we jump off a cliff holding hands.
What trick is this again?
And it's very much like the Yoimiya one where we're like jump off into the flying like star type of
Yeah,
thing.
oh yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
You're
It's got
right.
the
That
same kind of
was
vibe.
also in a dream, right?
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. So we jump off this cliff, we wake up underwater, but then we're flying through the sky while Mizuki's like Baku army is just like flooding over the land and eradicating all the nightmares. And then we perch on a tree branch and watch the moon with her.
Yeah. And that's where there's the little like there's a literal close up of our hands almost touching. Like it's like we're on a little date here watching the moon. It's pretty.
It's very romantic for two people who almost died just now.
Randomly just like did the eye monster die? Like it was just over. Like as quickly as it started.
We don't, yeah, that's the greatest part is I don't think it shows us what happens to Chuya.
No.
And then Yaimiko comes by the next day and is like, Chuya was rescued from the water, but his mind has reverted to that of a young child.
And then she looks at us and goes, how was that view last night? And we like get all like, oh.
We're like, wait, so he's brain damaged?
It's so fucking ridiculous. The end part, like it was a lot of fun. But it was just like, what is going on?
I wish I could take a gummy and then play it for the first
Yes.
time.
Yes, if you haven't done this story quest and you are over 18 and in an area where it's not illegal, please take an edible and play this story quest.
Wow.
Says the drug lord of Tibet.
Literally.
I had a disclaimer.
I don't trust her.
It was a good time. That quest was a good time.
We are so smitten with Mizuki, though. Like, it is so funny. Like, it really is, like, oh my God, I can't believe you were spying on us when we were on our date. And she's like, whatever, little one.
You know, Yaimiku's just fucking jealous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so there's a guy walking around who's cute. Let's just also put that in there. We're gonna put him in the cute NPC kind of area. Emero's actually a good looker.
Okay.
He's now has the mind of a toddler.
No, like poor Chuya. Like even though he was an asshole, I feel bad that he got his brain wiped.
And I just keep laughing about it. I want to run into him. Please.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Like, will he snap out of it, or does he just have to like grow up again?
What if he's just like walking in the river in his socks?
I mean, everybody else in Inazuma's doing it.
No, but they shouldn't be. That's the issue. He should like burn them at the stake.
You can't burn them. They're wet.
I'll burn them. I'll figure it out. I know how oil works.
It is so trippy, though. I mean, she's just kind of trippy, too. Like, does anybody know why she has a fucking tail that wraps around her leg?
For fun.
For
I
fun.
know,
That's the
yeah.
only reason I could find. For fun.
To make it a little more suggestive, maybe.
Yeah. Because, like, they say, like, oh, she can, use it in her therapy. Like, oh, excuse me.
Yeah, what type of therapy are you doing where that tail is touching me? I don't know
And
if I want to be there.
It's like acupuncture.
It's the way it wraps around her leg, though. Like, it's not just hanging out. Like, it literally hugs her thigh.
Mm.
It is the strangest, most sexual little stupid thing ever. And why is she always a waitress? Like, I always feel like she's carrying around milk.
She does. Well, because milk helps people sleep and have good dreams. That's what she says. And also, just because you said it, so her outfit, right? Her outfit is inspired by something called a yulata, which I might be saying wrong. It's
like a
Y-U-
culotta?
Yeah, but Yulata. And a yulata is either a summer kimono that you see at a festival or at a bathhouse.
Hmm.
And in like very traditional areas of Japan, it's only used as a robe in a bathhouse.
Oh.
It's very rare nowadays for that to be like the thing that's only a bathrobe. But why is she just walking around at all times in her bathrobe?
I was like, that's a really cool reference. But yeah, she's walking around in a bathrobe.
It almost feels like she's being like inappropriate on the reg.
I mean, did you see the tail?
I did. You're right. I did.
That's the most suggestive tail in the game.
What's the second?
I don't know. Somebody. I gotta find somebody now. Maybe it's Carraro's. No, it's Shalonin's. She's like, let me use my tail as a feather duster.
Like, does this psychotherapy have a happy ending? Is that what's going on here at this bathhouse? I mean, if
I'm dead.
they were offering that, they would be making way more money.
That's true.
They'd be making more than the OnlyFans watching Scaramouche's body. Can I just tell you a random fact that has nothing to do with Genshin, but because I keep talking about, I think the reason why OnlyFans is in my head, on the radio today, they were talking about how in like these two counties in New York and Nassau and Suffolk County, people spend so much money on subscriptions to OnlyFans that it's more than like what France makes in a year.
Oh my God.
Spending on OnlyFans. It's some ridiculous.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
Mhm. And that's probably why it's in my head, because I was like, what? I'm like, and it's first, like, they always say like, oh, it's the same amount of money that like this country brings in every year. And I was like, it's going to be this tiny little country. And they're like, France. I'm like, what?
I did hear about some girl on TikTok whose dad is mad at her because she makes so much money pouring honey on her feet.
How did her dad even find out about it?
I heard about it on a podcast,
No,
and
but like, how'd her dad find out? Like,
oh, I don't know. I guess she was like, I made $2,000 this month. And now he's like, well, I guess you can like get your own place to live now.
oh shit. Father, no. Father.
I mean, I think it just goes to show that we're all in the wrong line of work.
I think that like every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm doing something wrong.
Time to get those socks wet.
No,
Mhm.
that's where I draw the fucking line. That's the end of the story, though, right?
Yeah, that's it.
We don't know what else happens. It's just
He lost his mind. Chuya
He
lost his
lost his
mind.
mind.
Yeah.
monster who's the only one who's left apparently is gone. And he's like a Renova eyeball who opens and closes his eye and tries to catch you while you're trying to sneak around.
Perfect, because I want to
Yeah.
backtrack. So I want to go to therapy again, just for a second. We talked a little bit earlier about the companions that Mizuki has,
Mhm.
and her therapizing herself. So her companions are Yachen and Techen, and she's created them with her super special yokai powers that also do so much, apparently. And they represent Yachen is her wisdom and Teichin is her spirit. And they're actually like parts of her that she has like taken out of her body and made into these little baby Bakus.
Oh.
Mhm.
And not only do they help her administer treatment and help her fight, they also are her therapists. So she is using her own wisdom and her own spirit as her therapists. And like she talks about the fact that like she really had to train them. And she's like, yeah, the one doesn't really cry anymore.
Oh.
I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? How does this work? What collective conscious is this?
Yeah, it is weird because it's like they're two extremes. Like one is like the emotional extreme, the other is like the rational thinking extreme. And so she like, I guess somehow uses them to therapize herself, where she kind of approaches whatever emotions she's going through from both extremes and then finds the common ground in the middle, I guess. It seemed a little vague.
It seems to make no fucking sense. Right? Like,
Yeah, it definitely seems vague. And it's also a little worrisome that she's doing therapy on herself.
Yeah.
Like, girl, haven't you seen what's her name? Ona?
Who's Oda?
She's on Couples Therapy, the TV show.
That's a TV show?
Yeah, it's so good. I think it comes on Showtime. But it's like this therapist, I think she's in New York, but it's just like different couples come in and she does therapy and like you get to watch it. But she's so like articulate and just like good at her job. But then it also shows her being in therapy with someone else. And she's like asked that therapist for advice on like how to handle things and if she's getting too involved and things like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was on Showtime, a documentary series, Couples Therapy.
Yeah, it's really good. I recommend
I'll
it.
link it on the site.
Well, this is not couples therapy. This is just self therapy. It's very interesting and confusing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring it up because, you know, subconscious minds, hive minds, the whole 9 yards. And I'd also just like to bring up, while we're on the topic of little bitty babies, Sayu. I just want to throw Sayu in here. Your daughter.
Uh-huh. She's terrified of her.
Fucking terrified of Mizuki. She's like, she's the strangest lady I know. I just stay as far away as I can. And Mizuki is like, she wants to be tall. Those are her dreams.
I guess I won't eat them.
But she won't come near me. I guess maybe she knows that I have alternative motives. And I'm like, oh, girl, were you admitting this?
I also love it that when she got her vision, it appeared on her pillow while she was sleeping.
Can we talk about her vision for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So she's an Animo user. So we know Animo means dead friends.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think her dead friend is just the dead relationship between her and Yai?
No.
I mean, yeah, maybe. It's almost like it's Saigu, like via Yai.
That makes sense too.
Like I wish I could have been there more. It's like the guilt of Saigu of like not being there when Saigu disappeared.
Right. Because Mizuki was close with Kitsune Saigu. pre-cataclysm. But the dream she was having was about Yai, you know?
Yes. They kind of allude to like the idea that she might dream about her a lot.
Oh.
Mhm.
Do you guys dream about me a lot?
Not that I remember. So if I do, I must be blocking it out.
There's
Well,
a Baku who's
shit.
just taking it out of my head.
I'm like a little offended.
No, I used to have like really vivid nightmares like all the time.
About me?
No, not about you. Just in general, just generally speaking, like I had a very busy mind for a few years, but that eventually stopped, thank God. Sometimes it will still creep back in and I'll have like really crazy vivid dreams. Like, and I have woken up like mad at people that I dreamed about
Oh my
because it was
God.
so vivid. And I had to like calm down after waking up. But I can't remember any starring you, Amanda.
That's good. I've been having a lot of nightmares lately, and in one of them I had to kill Freddie Highmore, but he was a robot.
Who's Freddie Highmore?
Freddie Highmore
Yeah.
from The Good Doctor?
Oh, yeah. I never saw that show, but I know who you're talking about.
Bates Motel?
Bates Motel. I love Bates Motel.
Yeah, he was like a robot and I had to kill him. I got very scared
Mhm.
after that dream because I was like, oh my God, why am I killing people in my sleep?
Also, maybe he's Norman Bates.
Maybe, but I looked it up and it said it was normal as long as you felt guilty or scared as you did it, which I did. So don't worry, guys.
Okay, I feel safer.
I hope you do. I hope you really do. Get nervously laughs. Anyway. But yeah, I just thought that it was very interesting that she got her dead friends club vision while having a dream about Yaimiko, which is a dead friendship. And she has like some really interesting thoughts in general about she talks about how there are people who don't have visions and their like biggest dream in life is to get a vision. And she thinks that that's really sad because it's basically like people are dreaming for things that are never going to happen, which I was like, wow, Mizuki. But she's like, people dream for things that are never going to happen, and it's the biggest disappointment to wake up.
Yeah, and so that's also when she talks about how the Baku cannot create dreams, right? Because
Mhm.
after one of her patients was very pleased with their treatment from her, they rewarded her with one of their good dreams. They're like, here is a good dream of mine. Bon appetit. And Mizuki ate it and was like, this is delicious. And she talks about how she would often wish that she could create like a one size fits all dream to help people, like as an antidote to nightmares.
Mhm.
So, and that's when she talks about how the Baku cannot create dreams, they can only eat them. And she talks about one day she had this really fond dream of having ramen with Yaimiko, like they used to back in the day, and how she was really wishing that she could guide people toward good dreams. And that's like, I guess, the moment that caused her vision to appear on her pillow.
Isn't that sad though? Doesn't that make you like want to give her like a little hug?
Yeah, I think so. As long as it's not too sexy.
As long as her tail doesn't hug me at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe only if her tail hugs me at the same time.
Right.
But also in her vision, like the story about her vision, she says, sometimes in the pursuit of a mirage, we inadvertently turn reality into a nightmare from which we must escape. And I can only hope that that doesn't happen to them, aka the people who want visions. So I also thought that was interesting how like, you know, I think a lot of people with depression are like that, where like the dream world is so much better than reality that you don't want to leave and it makes your reality worse.
You know, one thing I will say for her character design is they did, I think, a good job of making her, and I guess this is sort of ties into her like emotional versus rational sides, like that are competing, but they made her good at being eccentric while also being like really logical.
Definitely.
I thought that was like something they
Mhm.
handled well, as
Yeah.
like kind of goofy as her story quest is.
Mhm.
I think that she was well balanced in that way.
The only other thing that I thought with her story quest that we just didn't say because it's inconsequential, but it's the most ridiculous statement ever, is like, if you can imagine her stand up with like her hands on her hips, she just goes, "Let's eat this nightmare."
Oh,
I'm like, what? It's like the battle cry. Eat this nightmare.
Does she really say that? Because I don't have her.
Well, it's in the story quest where she says it.
Oh,
It's just it's inconsequential, but it struck me as the most ridiculous thing.
it is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because that's not really her personality either.
Yeah. Eat the nightmare.
Yeah, that comes off very like Amber of her.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was channeling her inner Amber. It's
Mhm.
fine. Her inner Yoimiya. Oh my god, so as part of Mizuki's like a day-to-day thing, she goes around doing like reports on the mental well-being of people in Inazuma. Which, like, if someone came like door to door knocking, asking about how I was doing for a survey on my mental health, I would slam that fucking door so quick. I don't care if it was like fucking Dr. Phil. Like, slam. And she says that it's statistically, it is true that people who live closer to Yoimiya need less therapy.
Aw.
And she's literally like, yeah, like, first off, Yoimiya is putting her out of business in that area. But she's like, Yoimiya is just such a bright person, like, no one could be dimmed when around her.
Hmm.
I was
That's
like,
nice.
can you
That
imagine
is.
someone being like, hey, just so you know, statistically, people around you are less depressed?
Yeah.
Like, what?
You know who else is putting her out of business? Nahida. Because she can't eat anybody's dreams when she's over in Sumeru. And it's not like in a bad thing, but it's like Nahida has like domain over all of her people. And she's kind of like, you stay out of their dreams. It's for me. But because she's protecting them, not like in a I want to control them kind of
Right.
way. And like she makes mention, like it really speaks a lot to how much a god loves their.
But doesn't her comment on Nahida also make you curious, though, of like when she was in Sumeru during her travels? Because she kind of makes it sound like she was in Sumeru in order, right? Like she went to Mansa and then Liyue and then Sumeru. So like in my head, I'm like, she was probably there like 50 years ago. So was Nahida even the Archon? And is she just assuming that because she didn't know the true situation? Because you really had to be an insider to
Mhm.
know anything about Nahida not actually being an Archon for them. So I almost wonder if she's referring to the fact that because of the academia and the Inkashas and everything, none of the adults can even dream.
But they were in a dream. Well, no, they couldn't dream. I don't know. That's a good point.
Because Tainari always says that. He's like, oh, I used to dream a lot as a kid, but I haven't dreamed since I was a child.
Yeah.
So I was curious if, like, she was just assuming it was the Dendro Archon because she's never met Nahida from what I can tell. Or if it was the fact that, like, you know, fucking Azar was fucking things up.
Yeah, and her thinking that Nahida was protecting them was actually Azar using them.
Which is interesting because in one of the antidotes we got, she actually brings Layla to the bathhouse in Inazuma. So whatever it is, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of both. Like it started off with like the Azar Akasha and now Nahida's also doing it.
Mm.
Maybe to keep someone like Azar from doing that all over again.
Yeah.
Because she literally has to bring Layla out of Sumeru in order to try to help her at the bathhouse.
Yeah, it's only when she's in Sumeru. Like Sumerans can go to Inazuma and be treated by her. It's just she can't when she's within in Nahida's borders. She's forbidden.
Do you think if Mizuki was starving to death, that Nahida would feed her some dreams?
I don't know if Nahida even knows who she is. Just being
What if
honest.
she just met her and Mizuki was like, I need dreams to eat? I mean, she'd probably be like, sure, here's some.
Nahida be like, here's a clementine.
Yeah. Maybe if you take a dookie, you'll feel better.
Oh no.
He's like, you got that RuPaul in your stomach? Go shit it out.
And we're right back to diarrhea.
But on that note, because I don't want to talk about that, I do think we have to skip to our mail segment because Kirara is looking at us like, don't make me have like bad bowel movements, guys. She's like, eat my dreams. She's like, I'm also a yokai. When are you doing an episode about me? Our first message this week comes from Abby. It is a two-parter. They said, I've really been enjoying listening to all the lore in this game and you guys discussing it. So thank you so very much for making this podcast. You guys are constantly clearing up a lot of my confusion within the game.
Oh, thanks.
For my question, I wanted to ask if there are any characters you felt very connected to while playing the game. For example, I feel very connected to both Shinsho and Fischl, and it really feels like seeing myself in the world every time I hear their story or see them on screen. I was wondering wondering if there are any characters who you have felt emotionally connected to after learning their story, like a character that reminds you of yourself.
I wonder if Abby is a fanfic writer.
Abby, please.
Shingsho and Fischl are two very different characters, but they could overlap in a fan fiction environment.
If you write fanfic, send it in. I'd love to read it. Read fanfiction every night.
I can't say that I've ever had that connection to a character in that way. I would say that with Llama, I've been more envious of, because I'm like, I want to talk to the animals. And I do feel like is a little bit more like I am a little bit more like her. I'm hiding a secret and I talk very softly. I don't know.
What?
Yes.
What secrets?
I can't tell you. Then it won't be a secret.
Do you also push your anger into your bust?
I mean, look at my titties. Yeah, I got them from somewhere. But I honestly can't say. I mean, Zhao would probably be the only other one, and it's just because I'm emo.
It's just because I'm emo.
I'm emo, yeah. And I like almond.
I like Alhaitham and Hazo. I kind of identify with both of them because I'm a loner, but I'm also very ambitious. So I would probably go with them. Sometimes, and it's hard for me to tell sometimes if I am connecting to a character versus I just like their play style, because I've been at one point a Kazuha main and at another point a Neuvillette main, but I kind of also connect with them because they're both also kind of loners in that regard. I've also been a boss at work before where like I managed a bunch of people. So that made me feel kind of connected to Neuvillette in a way. So yeah, those are mine.
The first character I ever felt like I really connected with was Tighnari. That's one of the reasons I really like Tighnari. I feel like, you know, you're like, I don't feel like a loner, but I feel like I'm a loner in a crowd. Like that little bit of like awkwardness and not knowing how to blend in when you're not like with your people type of thing, and being like an overachiever and feeling that burnout at times. And feeling like you're constantly trying to find like that next thing to do and to help and to be. Because I'm like, all of a sudden Tighnari's being treated like a doctor. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that in the last Sumeru event, but he was like, if you guys ever need anything, like the doctor is going to be with us on the trip. And I'm like, you? When did you become a doctor? You're a botanist.
I remember that because I've always felt like he could have been a healer.
Oh yeah, from the start. Him and Kale both should have been healers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tighnari's always like had my heart. I feel like especially when I read fan fiction from him, I feel like it's something like he has a secretive bleeding heart, if that makes sense. Like he doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve, but he has a heart that is just constantly giving, and I can really appreciate and connect with that. And the other character was Ga Ming. When Ga Ming's like Lantern Rite came out, like I cried. More so just about like unresolved parental things, and like I've mentioned before, like my mom has passed and we did not have a good. She was into drugs. Tiff, thanks for supplying her.
Wasn't me, I swear.
Tiff was not the drug lord in New York. But like Ga Ming, like getting to see him have that reconnection with his dad, like was very like emotional for me, and I feel like I connected with him a lot because he's just such a positive energy, and I like to believe that I bring that positive energy to the party. And to find out he had such a sad like family life, or a different type of family life than you'd expect, I felt like I could connect with that a little bit too, where people are like, wait, what? But that anyway. Abby also asked if we could clear up confusion that they have on the Twink Tank and any podcast lore that might be helpful for newer listeners.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, maybe I should make a lore page about us.
No, you just gotta listen. But we'll give some tidbits now. Twink Tank is the bar that I own in the Sumeru Lighthouse over in Port Ormos. My general manager is Adventurine from Honkai Star Rail, and then Kaveh is like the manager underneath him. We offer like 2-for-1 specials. We have paint nights on Wednesdays.
The way you talk about it like it's so real is so funny to me. I think I want to say it was either the Alhaitham or the Kaveh episode where it first started. It's just an inside joke that started.
Because Kaveh redid the inside of the lighthouse or somewhere over there, and Port Ormos has like a banging tune, so it all of a sudden became a club.
And I love lighthouses. And then we
Twinks.
and
And
twinks.
Twinks. Yeah.
So, and then we joked that we were gonna expand into the lighthouse that Flynn's has, but that's dead. So, can't do that.
Oh, well, you're just gonna have to build a space elevator next.
I'm gonna do that in Malastra. Maliastra.
Yes.
I can't think of any lore. I mean, other lore in the podcast is that Al, who was our last co-host, used to always say that she was gonna bathe in his blood. So we like to say that in her tone at times.
Yes, and that was I think she got that from Trixie Mattel.
Yeah, I think so. And then there's Dead Friends Club, which is all of our Animo characters all have somebody who's dead. Oh, they all have a dead friend. So we've made the Dead Friends Club.
Well, we have blanket friends too, who are
Yeah.
all of the friends that A had prior to her sister dying.
Yeah. And we have
Oh,
an
and
orphan
Goop.
alert because
Goop.
oh yeah, and Goop.
Yeah,
In the
orphan alert.
Narcissenkreuz saga, we talk about how how a couple characters are born of the goop, and that's not a word that Brandon's a big fan of.
Mhm.
So therefore, we
I'm gonna
call
have
it
nightmares
all the time.
about Goop
Goop.
tonight.
Purple goop.
Amanda as Goop.
Mhm.
Amanda as Goop.
But and like Tiff said too, we also have Orphan Alert because there's just so many freaking orphans in this game. They're always like, oh, another one, Orphan Alert. I can't think of anything else, but honestly, if you are a avid traveler that hangs out with us, let us know in the comments if there's anything else, and we'll like talk more about it next time. We can follow up a little bit more with some
Yeah.
more annotations. But thank you, Abby, for the questions.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank
Abby.
you. And thanks for listening too.
Yes. Our next message comes from Paimonica, and they asked my favorite question: which 911 character could at least wound Rerir? Now, for those of you travelers who don't know, 911 is an amazing, fantastic TV show that I adore that doesn't have a twink anymore. He's a past twink.
A twunk.
A twunk. But it's a firefighter show based in Los Angeles. So they're a group of firefighters, and there's like one person who's a police officer, there's one person who's like a rocket scientist, there's a 911 dispatcher.
Normal things.
Mhm.
So Paimonica wants to know which one we think could at least wound Rerir.
I don't watch 911, but I can so I decided that I was going to tell you who I think, because I'm obsessed with Stranger Things, who in Stranger Things could wound Rerir, and that is Erica Sinclair, because the sassiest child that's ever been on that show. He would be so like frightened of her. She would
Okay.
call him a bald bastard, and he would be like, "Oh no, please don't leave her, please take her away from me."
But he's not even bald.
It doesn't matter.
He has so much hair. He has like flowing locks.
He's not a whole person.
I have. Wait, Amanda, you go, and then I'll go. Because I have a joke answer.
All right. As much as I would like to say Buck and Eddie together can rule the world and do it, I don't think they could. Because the second one of them gets injured, the other one's going down crying. I truly think if any of them were going to do anything to take Rerir out, it'd be fucking Karen, Hen's wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Karen the rocket scientist, Karen who got them out of space.
Yeah, I guess that tracks.
Karen could do what Columbina did, but in the Earth way, and send him into a moon portal. I truly believe Karen could do it. She would obviously all the others would have to be her like henchmen, like we'd
Yeah.
probably have to like hang Buck from like a fucking rope in front of the hole as bait
Right.
and all that type of jazz. And Bobby would be like, this is a terrible idea from the dead. But I think Karen's the mastermind who's gonna make it happen.
I like that. I was gonna say Athena, but then I think the real answer is that Rerir is a Buck and Eddie shipper, and they finally kiss, but then right after they kiss, Abby shows back up and completely derails the whole Buck and Eddie romance, and that would be enough to make Rerir crawl back into his little portal.
They derail because the last time we saw Abby was at a train derailment.
You're right. Full circle moment.
I just gotta say, if Abby showed up, I truly think Eddie's gonna throw hands with that woman. Like, I mean, in the train derailment, Eddie was like, "You're Abby," like, ugh. And even Bobby was like, "Oh, it's Abby," like eye roll. And now that we know that Abby and Tommy were together, I mean, terrible. I truly think that if Abby showed up, Eddie would just be like, "No, no," and push her away.
Or maybe like Tommy tries to rescue her, but they both fall out of a building.
I mean, that's honestly ideal. I think Revere would walk away. He'd be like, "My time is done. I can leave now."
Problem solved.
Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Tommy and Abby, together or alone. I hate them both so much. When Abby left the show, I was like, thank God. Like, she was ruining the first season for me.
I had to look up her character name, and I'm glad that I was able to speak your language for a short time.
I am too. This was really nice. Join us when we do a short about 911. And I just go on my whole fucking like thesis about Evan Buckley. Anyway, thank you, Pi Monica, for the question. It made me very happy. And I even made a fun little video about it.
Oh my God.
But that being said, travelers, that is all the time that we have for today. If you enjoyed this episode or you didn't, please email albedo at talesoftefatpod@gmail.com so we can get your feedback, get your data, find out if people within a certain distance of this podcast need more therapy or less therapy. Additionally, travelers can feel free to follow us on Instagram, Tales of Tefat Pod, or on Twitter, Tales of Tefat. We're also on Blue Sky, Threads, YouTube. Follow us wherever you are just to stay up to date on all things with the pod. We also post out a lot of additional information from the episode, including the artist spotlights and a link to our lore sheets, so definitely check it out. You can also feel free to check out our Ko-fi, where you can buy us a cup of coffee, or you can check out our merch store. All proceeds from our Ko-fi go to energizing the podcast, energizing the Jug Lord, making sure we got enough cocaine, and also making sure we can pay for things like our web hosting and editing softwares so we can keep bringing Tales of Tefat to your computers, earphones, radios, wherever you're listening. And lastly, travelers can feel free to rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, just so we can let other travelers know that we've got like an acid dream going on over here. If you want to trip with us, come hang out. In our next episode, we will be talking about Nodcry and the battle against Rerir, ironically enough. So get your Evan Buckleys ready for next week. Until then, safe journeys, travelers, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, collective unconscious nerds.
Yes. I want to be in the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
Just knock me out.
I feel like everyone that